JonTron.
Number 10.
You know, I've got something to confess. I'm not sure how much I really like Earthbound as a game, but as I'm going back to try to think of things to fit in this list, I'm struck with oddly fond memories of it. Like, what were they on when they made this game? That's another thing about SNES games that I used to adore, the fact that the weirdness just took the immersion that much farther. If you played long enough, you'd almost trance and start to accept the trippy game logic as true, like a bee talking to you, then giving you a tutorial speech that can loop forever? Like he did what? I don't know about this game. I want you all to know, I rather dislike this game as a game. I mean, nothing's more fun than watching a static blank background and pushing A, right? Nothing. But as an experience, while this game excels to Distant Nebulae and back, I really do think a game can be an experience alone sometimes if it plays its cards right. I mean, look at Heavy Rain.
Jason!
Number 9.
Best Castlevania theme ever! Super Castlevania 4. Yeah! But the name just begs the question, is there a regular Castlevania 4? Stupid name aside, okay, fuck it, the name's pretty sweet after all. Awesome name aside, Castlevania 4 is a game I would call the finest linear Castlevania platformer. Some may argue Devil's Castle Dracula X Rondo of Blood was, but I guess I just don't fall into that category. Epic scenery, the classic whip, those cool rainbow graphics on the bosses, music of the gods of Valhalla, sound effects that are so sharp and crisp they could rip the cuddle off a fish, and the most perfectest gameplay controls in all of the linear Castlevanias. Whoever designed Castlevania 1 through Belmont's Revenge was apparently put through a wood chipper and tossed to the bottom of the ocean, because Castlevania 4 actually had controls. Honestly, I'm surprised that a game even made it to a fourth installment without the previous games even having controls. Imagine that. Simpler times back then, I tell you. You could whip up, down, sideways, diagonal, squagonal, interdimensional, it didn't matter. Also, you had more control of your own jump, which is always a plus. I never actually played it as a kid, and even played it after such titles as Dawn of Sorrow and Symphony of the Night, and I still think it's one of the better games. Yeah, it's that good.
Number 8.
John, I'm surprised you picked Donkey Kong Country 3 instead of the other ones. Yeah, me too, because I didn't. It is rather inexplicable how much Donkey Kong Country means to me. When this game first came out, I think my retinas melted, because do you see these graphics? Even today, they're nothing to sneeze at. Even some games on the PlayStation 1 had pre-rendered graphics that look like shits today. I'll tell you what's special about this game to me. They really tried for a somewhat realistic feel. The next two games were more video gamey and stylized, but this one was the only one that was pure country. Temple levels were stoic and mysterious, water levels ambient and emotionally captivating, crystal cave levels just flooring, and my personal favorite, the forests. Beautifully orchestrated music alongside them, the forest levels were something to be witnessed. This is one of those times I was talking about, when you feel really removed from your own life and transplanted into another plane of existence, a place where rules and boundaries don't apply, only emotions, however irrational they may be. Maybe this is a little too deep for a game series that eventually stars Can Jam's McShitflinger, but I just know there's gotta be another soul out there who sees in this game what I see. If you're out there, my number is 1-800-REJECTION hotline.
Number 7.
Before Final Fantasy turned into Final Hallway, it was a franchise of valor and grace. And no SNES Final Fantasy is more deserving of that blanket statement than the masterpiece that is Final Fantasy VI, or, 3. Because I mean, whatever. America's usually 3 steps behind Japan at any point anyways. This game was a more mature and evolved take on the RPG genre. Don't quote me on it, but I think this game factored in largely for the turning point in video game storytelling. You were no longer shoved a paragraph of text to read a la the days of yester. You experienced the events and character relationships for yourself, binding the impact of the story to you in a way previously impossible for games like Ultima to realistically achieve. Games like this were almost dreamlike. I think this is especially true in this case because you tried to relate your 3D real-world feelings to this 2D game. In terms of audio, there's nothing to miss. I think it's quite amazing that Nobuo Uematsu was able to create such haunting and uplifting melodies through such musical limitations. But I suppose it's not too surprising, for masterful music is masterful music, no matter which way you render it.
Go ninja, go ninja, go! Go ninja, go ninja!
Number 6.
One day my neighbor was like, "Do you want to play a game I have called Zombies Ate My Neighbors?" To which I replied, "What are you trying to make me look like a fool in front of my family and friends? Ain't nobody named that game something stupid like that." To which he replied, "Holy fucking shit." The name Zombies Ate My Neighbors is an obvious preliminary draw just for curiosity's sake, but I'd never have imagined that such a peculiarly named cartridge would end up being pretty much the best multiplayer experience on the Super Nintendo. Man, this game was hard, but in a good way. And honestly, it still challenges me every time I pick it up to play nowadays. What a crazy-ass game. You used everything as a weapon against the undead horde. Popsicles, soda cans, and another cool thing is that it was both co-op and competitive at the same time, and also made you want to kill whatever friend you were playing with. It benefited both of you to keep each other alive, but that said, there was no incentive to keep you from hoarding all the items to yourself. Yeah, that works out great. Before you know it, you're planning out each other's assassinations. But in the end, after Brad Pitt comes back to life, you realize that it was all in good fun, and the spirit of the game is really where it's at. Until you guys pop in Legend of Zelda 4 Swords and start playing that together.
Number 5.
Awesome! A new Mario game! Let's go home and play that shit! What you've just experienced is the way I felt upon first playing Super Mario RPG. That was it, the first RPG I'd ever played. I was primarily an action gamer at the time and didn't really understand the concept of something like this. I only picked it up from Brokebuster because it was a Mario game after all. Sad to say, but my child mind just couldn't handle what Legend of the Seven Stars had to offer at that time. So for 7 long years, Super Mario RPG lay at the bottom of the ocean, cursed by the gods to live in deafening solitude, until the foretold day that it was time for the Legend of the Seven Stars to rise again. Unfortunately though, by that point my cartridge was too damaged by water to play, and thus I discovered the phenomenon that was the emulator. You are a pirate! Yeah, shut up. I don't endorse pirating games, but this was back in the day when eBay wasn't well known, I had no money, and retro gaming fairs weren't exactly within my reach. So emulators were the only place I had to turn for reliving retro games. I'd finally regrouped with Super Mario RPG, but this time it was different. I understood and loved RPGs, and it just so happened that this particular one happened to be one of the finest. Killer graphics, killer music, killers. And I love that it introduced a way for RPGs to feel like you weren't just telling Mario to attack. You actually had some tactile input to sway the effectiveness of his attacks. Subtle but great. Anything I'll say about this game, you already know. So to cap it off, I'll just say... Jason!
Number 4.
Bam, headshot, kasplush, all tree, that's right. Every single Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo is on this list as a separate entry, and you know what? They each stand on their own. The way my brain sees it, the Donkey Kong Country trilogy is very close to being the finest trio of sequels in all gaming. They're just also goddamn groundbreaking. As much as I love 3 and the original, 2 is the obvious taker of the cake for me. This game was borderline perfect. Music, style, visuals, gameplay, level design, flow. And not to mention it's the only entry in the series where both the characters you play are, well, cool. I don't know, something about Donkey Kong and Kiddy is annoying to me. I don't know if they actually control any worse, but they feel heavier, slower, and hard to handle. I can play this game over and over and over and over and over and over. The feeling you get while playing is indescribable. All your worries shed away like snakeskin, and all you can focus on is why Dixie has blonde hair when she's a monkey. Not too much left to say about this series. I've said more than enough through these 3 entries, but as it stands, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy Kong's Quest is the master in an already masterful series. That is some truly master hand shit. Master.
Number 3.
Now we're really getting down to it, aren't we? You knew this game would make an appearance, how could it not? I won't deny it, there's definitely some personal bias with this one, because it's the first game I ever owned on the first console I ever owned. Like, wow, you think it might place highly on this list? I actually already went in depth with this one on my top 10 boss battles list, but I guess I'll say it again. For a while, I think I actually lived inside of Super Mario World. I played in the fields of Yoshi's Island. I climbed on the chain-link fences of Iggy's castle. I swam next to spiky testicles. I rode the dolphins of Snow Mountain Peak? I don't know. I opened up new paths in the Forest of Illusion. I went when I saw shit like this. And I brought down Bowser and his minions, and this is the United States of fucking America, god damn it! Nothing can explain the connectedness I feel with this game. Whenever I boot it up, from the music right down to the weird graphics, I feel perfectly at home. I don't know about you, but I feel that Super Mario World doesn't really feel all that much like a traditional Mario game. It's a bit weird, but you know what? I love it. Getting this high in the top 20 is really like asking me to choose which one of my future children I'll like better. I just can't do it. This game is golden.
Number 2.
Okay, now we're getting into some really serious shit. No more jokes.
How about a dozen eggs? Cost me $442.
I know people love and appreciate Yoshi's Island, but I don't think that they love it and appreciate it as much as they should. In my humblest of opinions, Yoshi's Island is the finest platformer to ever grace the earth. It's perfect. 100% perfect. Even Super Mario World's got some flaws here and there, but Yoshi's Island is 10 out of 10. Why, you ask? Well, let me lay it on you. Each level had something unique and different. The controls were so perfect and fluid that I have not played a game to this date that would give me the same feeling of control and exhilaration. The mechanics were beautifully crafted. The jump is multi-dimensional in design. You can jump normally, but then float to bring yourself some extra accuracy. The tongue is perfectly integrated into the game, bringing an entire new level of depth that couldn't be achieved with Mario's non-reaching abilities. Keeping all that in mind, the level design is also perfect and wonderfully varied. Never once does this game feel like it's getting repetitive. The music is godlike, the visuals are breathtaking, the sounds perfectly describe the actions in the environment. There's a shit ton of levels. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is the Mozart of technological and spiritual advancement in the early video game industry. The Beethoven, the Da Vinci. It's Yoshi's Island, motherfucker! Through all the immensity that is the SNES library, there is one title I find myself returning to year after year and never ceasing to find pure joy in. That shimmering diamond would be Super Mario All-Stars. You all may not agree that this should be my top favorite game out of all the SNES games because it's just a recompilation of older Mario games, but to me, it's something much more. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not too fond of playing older Mario games on the NES because I didn't grow up with an NES. It's hard for me to accurately relive them the way they were originally created, but what I did grow up with was Super Mario All-Stars. In fact, when I was a kid, I had no freaking idea these were remastered NES games. I didn't even know what an NES was. It's certainly important to remember one's roots, but as I see it, All-Stars trumps all of the NES counterparts. The pixely aesthetic and the magically orchestrated music evoke feelings of deep happiness that I cannot accurately describe with words. I'm taken to a time of the past, a time where worries were few and adventure was high. 4 Mario games on one cartridge, each with their own visual and musical style. How could anything get better for a kid? Super Mario Bros. The Classic, Super Mario Bros. 2, a game unreleased in the US, and the jaw-dropping wonder that is Super Mario Bros. 3. And you know what? If this game were simply just Super Mario Bros. 3, I think I would still love it just as much. This revolutionary third installment of the Mario series is what I might call the best Mario game ever made. And I'm sure I don't need to explain the reasons why. It's simply a masterpiece. While older SNES games fade into obscurity, Super Mario All-Stars comes closer towards the light because with each year it ripens like an antique bottle of wine. Each year the taste becomes more classic and the nostalgia towards our carefree childhoods becomes deeper. Experiences like the ones we've had with games like Super Mario All-Stars are the kind we'll take with us for all our lives. While some of our parents and peers may dismiss such thoughts and feelings as petty and childlike, you've still got to listen to your true inner voice that guides you. You only know what you feel, and I for one feel that these video games have defined me. They've revealed to me that you don't have to think inside the box if you don't want to. In the realm of your hopes and dreams, the impossible can be achieved. While the mundanity of life drones on, you can always find solace and adventure inside a virtual world, and really, who's to say what's real and what's not? All of these games now are but distant memories of freeze frames in time and space that we have the choice and power to relive with the flip of a switch. It's simply human nature to try to make sense of things by whipping up a trivial list in the order of which our favorites fall, but really, how can you rate such things? For these games are significant to us for differing reasons. A game that may be unappealing to one person may hold a plethora of meaning to another. It may be easy to lose sight of why we really love video games, but just remember, at the end of the day when you're powering down that PlayStation 3 console, that it wasn't always about how many gigabytes of RAM you had. It was about the adventure. Thanks for watching JonTron's Top 20 SNES Games. See you next time. to normalboots.com right now to see a new JonTron original, and if you want to follow us on social networking, go to facebook.com/JonTronShow or twitter.com/JonTronShow.